Awakening to Enlightenment, A Journey to Wisdom, Clarity, and Inner Illumination by David Russo. What if the life you're living is only the surface of something far deeper, something quietly waiting for you to notice? Awakening to enlightenment begins at that subtle moment when routine no longer satisfies, when questions arise not from confusion, but from an inner knowing that there is more. More clarity, more truth, more of you. This journey is not about escaping the world, but about seeing it, and yourself, with new eyes. Within these pages, awakening is not a distant ideal reserved for monks or mystics. It is a living, breathing experience woven into ordinary moments. Each chapter invites you to pause, reflect, and gently peel back the layers of conditioned thought to rediscover the wisdom already within you. This is a journey of illumination, where awareness becomes your compass, insight your guide, and consciousness your home. Chapter 1. The Call to Awareness. There comes a moment, sometimes quiet, sometimes unmistakable, when life begins to feel different. Not wrong, not broken, but incomplete in a way that words struggle to explain. You may be going through your days as usual, meeting responsibilities, following routines, even achieving goals, and yet a subtle question starts to surface. Is this all there is? This question is not a sign of dissatisfaction or failure. It is the first whisper of awareness awakening within you. The call to awareness rarely arrives with dramatic fanfare. More often, it emerges in the pauses between moments, in a sudden stillness, a lingering thought, or a sense that your attention is being gently pulled inward. You may notice yourself becoming more observant of your thoughts, your reactions, or the patterns repeating in your life. This is not accidental. It is consciousness beginning to recognize itself. Awareness begins when we stop living entirely on autopilot. For much of life, we function through habits learned early on, beliefs inherited from family, culture, and society, and reactions shaped by past experiences. These patterns help us survive, but over time, they can also limit us. The call to awareness invites you to step back and observe rather than immediately react, to notice rather than assume. At first, this noticing may feel uncomfortable. When awareness increases, it shines light on areas we have long ignored, unexamined beliefs, emotional triggers, or choices made unconsciously. But discomfort is not a warning sign, it is evidence of growth. Just as eyes adjust slowly when moving from darkness into light, the mind and heart need time to acclimate to greater clarity. Many people ignore this call. It is easy to distract yourself with noise, busyness, or external validation. Modern life encourages constant stimulation, leaving little room for reflection. Yet the call persists. It may return as restlessness, fatigue, or a feeling of being disconnected from yourself. These are not problems to fix. They are messages asking to be heard. To answer the call to awareness, you do not need to change your life overnight. You only need to begin paying attention. Notice your thoughts without judging them. Notice how certain situations make you feel. Notice the space between stimulus and response. In that space, awareness is born. This chapter is not about finding answers. It is about learning how to listen. True awareness begins not with certainty, but with curiosity. When you allow yourself to question without rushing to conclusions, you create room for insight to emerge naturally. You may also begin to notice a longing for deeper meaning. Goals that once motivated you may feel less fulfilling, while experiences of presence, quiet moments, meaningful conversations, simple beauty start to feel more valuable. This shift marks a turning point. Awareness begins to reorient what you consider important. The call to awareness is deeply personal. No two journeys look the same. Some people experience it through moments of challenge, others through inspiration, learning, or stillness. What matters is not how it arrives, but that you acknowledge it. As you move forward, remember this: awareness is not something you acquire. It is something you uncover. It has always been part of you, patiently waiting beneath layers of distraction and conditioning. Each time you pause to observe your inner world, you are answering the call. This chapter marks the beginning of your journey, not toward becoming someone new, but toward remembering who you already are. In the chapters ahead, you will learn how to nurture this awareness, deepen it, and allow it to guide you toward clarity, wisdom, and inner illumination. For now, simply recognize the call and know that by listening, you have already begun. Chapter 1 Bonus: Recognition and the Awakening of Self. Sometimes awakening does not arrive as a sudden realization, but as a recognition. A moment when you encounter someone who seems to see beyond your surface. Someone whose presence quietly reveals parts of yourself you had not yet met. This recognition is not about admiration or attachment. It is about resonance. Something within you responds because it recognizes itself. There are people who enter our lives not to teach us something new, but to remind us of what we already know. Through their words, their stillness, or simply the way they are, they reflect a deeper truth back to us. In that reflection, awareness awakens, not because they give it to us, but because they help us notice it. This kind of awakening feels gentle, yet profound. It may arrive as a sudden clarity, a shift in perception, or a quiet inner opening. You begin to see yourself differently, not as a collection of roles, stories, or past experiences, but as awareness itself, observing, learning, and unfolding. It is as if a light has been turned on, not outside of you, but within. Recognition is powerful because it dissolves isolation. It reminds us that awakening is not a solitary path walked in darkness, but a shared illumination. We recognize ourselves in another because the same awareness lives in all of us. In that moment, the boundary between self and other softens and understanding deepens. Reading about awakening and enlightenment can serve the same purpose. Words written from awareness carry a frequency that invites awareness to arise in the reader. They help keep the light alive, not by forcing insight, but by gently pointing toward it. Each time you return to these reflections, you are not learning something new, you are remembering. An awakening of awareness does not mean you have reached an endpoint. It means your eyes have opened to the journey itself. You become more present, more curious, more compassionate with your own unfolding. Life begins to feel less like something happening to you and more like something revealing itself through you. If someone has helped open your eyes to yourself, honor that experience. But know this: the awakening was always yours. They were a mirror, not the source. The light you saw in them was the light already waiting within you. This bonus reflection is an invitation to recognize those moments, those people, and those teachings that have helped you awaken. Let them inspire gratitude, not attachment. Let them strengthen awareness, not replace it. And most of all, let them remind you to keep returning to presence, to clarity, and to the quiet illumination that never leaves you. Chapter 2: Opening the Eyes Within. Once the call to awareness has been heard, a new question naturally arises. How do I see more clearly? Opening the eyes within is not about gaining new information or adopting complex philosophies. It is about learning to perceive life from a deeper, more conscious place, one that exists beneath habitual thought and emotional reactivity. Most of us are taught to look outward for understanding. We analyze situations, seek opinions, and measure ourselves against external standards. While these tools have their place, they often keep our attention focused away from the inner landscape where clarity truly begins. Inner vision is the ability to observe your experiences as they unfold, thoughts, emotions, and sensations, without immediately being pulled into them. To open the eyes within, the first practice is presence. Presence is the simple act of being fully here, not replaying the past, not anticipating the future, just noticing what is happening now. When you pause and bring your attention to your breath, your body, or the moment in front of you, the mind naturally begins to slow. In that slowing, insight has space to emerge. Clarity does not arrive all at once. It develops gradually, through consistent moments of awareness woven into daily life. You may begin to notice how certain thoughts repeat themselves, how emotions rise and fall, or how your body reacts before your mind forms a story. This noticing is not meant to control or suppress experience, but to understand it. As inner vision strengthens, you may realize that many of your reactions are not responses to the present moment, but echoes of the past. A comment from someone triggers an old insecurity. A challenge awakens a familiar fear. When you see these patterns clearly, they begin to loosen their hold. Awareness transforms unconscious reactions into conscious choices. Opening the eyes within also requires gentleness. Judgment clouds perception. When you criticize yourself for what you notice, clarity retreats. Instead, Approach your inner world with the same patience you would offer a close friend. Every thought and emotion you observe is offering information, not demanding punishment. Daily life provides endless opportunities to practice inner sight. While washing dishes, notice the sensations of water and movement. During conversations, observe your impulse to interrupt or withdraw. In moments of stress, feel where tension lives in your body. These simple acts of attention train the mind to remain awake rather than drifting into automatic behavior. Over time, inner clarity begins to influence how you navigate the world. Decisions become less reactive and more aligned. You start to recognize when something resonates deeply and when it does not, even if it looks appealing on the surface. This is not intuition as mystery. It is intuition as clarity, born from deep listening. Opening the eyes within does not mean retreating from life. On the contrary, it allows you to engage more fully. When awareness is present, experiences feel richer and more grounded. You are no longer lost inside your thoughts. You are in relationship with them. There will be moments when clarity fades, when distraction returns. This is natural. Inner vision is not a permanent state, but a skill that strengthens with practice. Each time you remember to return to the present, you reopen the eyes within. This chapter invites you to begin seeing, not with the eyes of habit, but with the eyes of awareness. As clarity grows, the world does not change, but your relationship to it does. And in that shift, a deeper understanding of yourself quietly unfolds. Chapter 2 Bonus: The Doors That Are Already Open. Inner awakening is often pictured as far off or demanding, something meant for ascetics, sages, or people with uncommon discipline. Yet the path inward is among the most immediate journeys available. Nothing special is required. No advanced training, no perfected calm. Only a readiness to pay attention. Each thought that passes through you, each feeling that arises, each impulse that stirs is a chance to become aware. The mind is not a barrier to awakening. It is the landscape where insight takes shape. When you start noticing your inner activity instead of being carried by it, something subtle but profound shifts. You step out of immersion and into observation. This observing presence is not distant or numb. It is deeply personal. It is the recognition that you are more than the stream of inner commentary. You are the one aware of it. That recognition alone unlocks a threshold many never realize is there. Turning inward does not pull you away from living. It brings you into fuller contact with it. Pleasure and pain, clarity and confusion, longing and loss still arise, but they arise within space. And that space is liberation. It gives you room to respond rather than reflexively react, to choose rather than unconsciously repeat. This openness is available to everyone. It shows up in fleeting but powerful instances: a moment of genuine curiosity, a pause before speaking, a breath noticed amid chaos. When you question a thought instead of surrendering to it. When you allow an emotion without labeling it. When awareness briefly interrupts habit. These are not insignificant, they are entrances. As more of these inner thresholds reveal themselves, you may come to see that awakening is not a final arrival, but an ongoing connection. A living relationship with yourself grounded in clarity, kindness, and honesty. Every insight opens into another space. Every moment of presence uncovers deeper understanding. No one is barred from this process. Your history does not disqualify you. Your temperament does not limit you. The inward way meets you exactly as you are, through the life you are already inhabiting. And each sincere return to awareness quietly opens yet another door. Chapter 3: Illumination Through Reflection. As awareness deepens and inner vision begins to open, a powerful tool comes into focus: reflection. Reflection is not rumination, nor is it self-criticism. It is the quiet, intentional act of looking inward with honesty and curiosity. Through reflection, hidden truths surface, not to judge us, but to free us. Many people move through life without ever truly examining their inner experiences. Thoughts arise, emotions react, decisions are made, and the cycle repeats. Reflection interrupts this cycle. It invites you to pause and ask, why did I respond that way? What belief is shaping this choice? What am I truly feeling beneath the surface? Illumination does not come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from gently turning toward it. When you reflect on your experiences, you begin to see patterns, recurring fears, familiar stories, habitual behaviors. These patterns once served a purpose. They may have protected you, motivated you, or helped you adapt. But what once protected you may now be limiting you. Reflection allows you to recognize this distinction. True reflection is spacious. It does not rush to conclusions or demand immediate answers. Instead, it creates room for insight to unfold naturally. Sometimes understanding arrives in words. Other times it comes as a felt sense, a subtle shift in perspective, or a quiet release of tension. All forms of insight are valid. One of the most illuminating aspects of reflection is recognizing the difference between who you are and what you experience. Thoughts, emotions, and roles are not your identity. They are experiences passing through awareness. When you reflect from this understanding, you gain distance without disconnection. You can observe without becoming overwhelmed. Reflection can be practiced in many ways. Journaling allows thoughts to take shape on the page, revealing connections that were previously unseen. Silent contemplation offers space for deeper listening. Even simple questions asked at the end of the day, what stood out to me today? When did I feel most present? What challenged me? Can open doors to insight. It is important to approach reflection with compassion. If reflection becomes harsh or obsessive, it loses its illuminating quality. The goal is not to dissect yourself endlessly, but to understand yourself honestly. Compassion softens resistance and allows truth to emerge without fear. As reflection deepens, you may uncover beliefs that no longer align with who you are becoming. Ideas about success, worthiness, or identity may begin to feel outdated or constricting. This realization can be both liberating and unsettling. Letting go of familiar beliefs creates space, and space can feel uncertain. Yet it is in this space that growth occurs. Illumination through reflection also brings accountability, not blame, but responsibility. When you see your patterns clearly, you recognize your role in shaping your experiences. This awareness empowers change. You are no longer a passive participant reacting to life. You become an active, conscious creator of your responses. Reflection does not require isolation from the world. Life itself is the mirror. Interactions with others, emotional reactions, and everyday challenges all provide material for insight. Each moment becomes an opportunity to learn something new about yourself. There will be times when reflection reveals truths you would rather not see. This is part of the journey. Avoidance keeps patterns in place, awareness loosens them. When you meet difficult truths with honesty and care, they lose their power to control you. Through reflection, light enters places that were once hidden. Not all at once, but gradually, steadily. With each moment of honest looking, clarity grows. You begin to understand not only what you do, but why you do it. And in that understanding, choice expands. This chapter invites you to use reflection as a source of illumination, not judgment. When you are willing to see yourself clearly, you begin to live more freely. And in that freedom, wisdom quietly takes root. Chapter 3 Bonus. Know thyself, the mirror within and without. Carved into the stone of the temple of Apollo at Delphi was the directive know thyself, know thyself. For Socrates, this was not a decorative maxim or a philosophical flourish. It was the starting point of all wisdom. Understanding reality, living ethically, and acting with clarity all begin with understanding the mind that perceives and chooses. But Socratic self-knowledge was never confined to silent introspection. It unfolded through relationship. Socrates engaged others in dialogue not to embarrass them, but to surface hidden beliefs, his own included. Through conversation, assumptions were exposed, questioned, and refined. In this way, self-understanding arose as much from encounter as from solitude. To truly know yourself is to grasp both your inner experience and the way that experience appears in the world. Looking inward reveals your impulses, values, anxieties, longings, and convictions. Looking outward, through the reactions of others, shows how those inner forces translate into behavior, language, and presence. Only together do these perspectives offer a complete portrait. Frequently, what we mean and what we convey do not align. You may intend sincerity and be received as blunt. You may feel introspective while others interpret withdrawal. These mismatches are not moral shortcomings. They are opportunities for insight. Socrates recognized such tensions as gateways to deeper awareness. This approach to self-knowledge demands humility. It requires releasing rigid attachment to how you see yourself and welcoming feedback with openness rather than resistance. The aim is neither self-betrayal nor people-pleasing. It is clarity, seeing how your internal landscape shapes your outward expression. Self-understanding deepens when reflection moves in two directions. Inward, who am I in my private thoughts and choices? Outward, who do I become in connection with others? Each view alone is partial. Together, they inform one another. By observing how others experience you, you begin to notice patterns operating beneath awareness, recurring roles, defensive habits, or emotional reflexes. Not every perception must be accepted as truth. Discernment matters. Yet when similar reflections arise across different relationships, they often illuminate something real and worth examining. For Socrates, the unexamined life was not unworthy because it lacked virtue, but because it lacked freedom. Awareness loosens the grip of unconscious reactions, inherited narratives, and the hunger for approval. Knowing yourself restores agency. Self-knowledge is not a finished achievement. It shifts as you grow. Each layer of insight reveals another. Thoughts give way to emotions, emotions to assumptions, assumptions to deeper structures of meaning. Ongoing reflection, both solitary and relational, keeps this unfolding alive. To know yourself is not to repair a flaw. It is to perceive with honesty. And from clear perception, inside and out, emerge coherence, grounded presence, and a wiser way of moving through the world. Chapter 4. The Power of Realization. There are moments in life when everything shifts, not because the world has changed, but because you have. A realization arrives, and suddenly what once felt confusing becomes clear. What once felt heavy begins to loosen. These moments, often described as aha experiences, are not accidents. They are the natural outcome of awareness, reflection, and inner clarity coming together. A realization is more than understanding something intellectually. It is a deep recognition that resonates through the mind, emotions, and body all at once. You don't just think the truth, you feel it. And once felt, it cannot be unseen. Realizations often arrive quietly. They may emerge during reflection, in the middle of a conversation, or while you are engaged in something ordinary. Sometimes they arise after struggle, when effort finally gives way to insight. Other times they appear in stillness, uninvited yet perfectly timed. What matters is not how they come, but how they change your relationship with yourself and the world. One of the most powerful realizations is recognizing that many of your limitations are not imposed from outside, but maintained from within. Beliefs formed long ago about who you are, what you deserve, or what is possible can quietly shape your choices. When you see these beliefs clearly, they begin to lose their authority. Awareness turns unconscious assumptions into conscious options. Realization brings responsibility. Once you see something clearly, pretending not to know becomes difficult. This is not a burden, it is empowerment. With realization comes the ability to choose differently. You may find yourself responding with greater patience, setting healthier boundaries, or releasing patterns that no longer serve you. It is important to understand that realization does not mean perfection. Gaining insight does not instantly erase old habits. Instead, it changes how you relate to them. You may still encounter familiar reactions, but now you recognize them as patterns, not identities. This recognition creates space for compassion and growth. Some realizations challenge the stories you have told yourself for years. You may realize that approval does not equal worth, that control does not equal safety, or that silence does not equal peace. These insights can feel destabilizing at first, as they invite you to release what once felt secure. But in their place, something more authentic begins to form. The power of realization lies in integration. Insight alone is not enough. It must be lived. When you allow realizations to influence your actions, they transform from fleeting moments into lasting wisdom. Small shifts, pausing before reacting, choosing honesty over comfort, listening more deeply, anchor realization into daily life. There is also humility in realization. Each insight reveals not an endpoint, but a deeper layer. Awareness continues to unfold, revealing new perspectives and understandings. This keeps the journey alive, grounded in curiosity rather than certainty. Not every realization feels dramatic. Some are subtle, almost ordinary, yet their impact unfolds over time. You may notice yourself feeling lighter, more present, or less driven by fear. These quiet changes are signs that insight has taken root. Realization does not separate you from life. It brings you closer to it. You engage with experiences more honestly, without as many filters of assumption or expectation. You begin to meet life as it is, rather than as you believe it should be. This chapter invites you to honor your realizations, both large and small. Each one is a doorway, opening you to greater freedom and understanding. When insight arises, pause and acknowledge it. Let it settle. Let it guide you. In recognizing truth for yourself, perception shifts. And with each shift, you move closer to living with clarity, intention, and conscious presence. Chapter 4 Bonus Reflection: Seeing what was always there. An aha experience can be like looking at one of those paintings that seems meaningless at first, just colors, shapes, and noise. You stare at it, unsure what you're supposed to see. Then, without force, something shifts. The image appears. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. The picture was always there, but your perception wasn't ready to receive it. Realization works the same way. The truth is often present long before it becomes visible. You may revisit the same situation, the same feeling, or the same question again and again, wondering why clarity hasn't arrived. But when awareness aligns, when effort softens into openness, the insight reveals itself naturally. Nothing new was added, something false was removed. This is why realizations can feel sudden yet familiar. They don't introduce foreign ideas. They uncover what was already beneath the surface. What changes is not the information, but the way you see. And once perception shifts, the world reorganizes itself around that new understanding. Just like with the painting, forcing insight rarely works. Straining too hard can keep the image hidden. Realization emerges when attention is steady, relaxed, and patient. When it arrives, it feels effortless, almost obvious. You may even wonder how you missed it before. This kind of seeing is transformative because it's irreversible. The moment clarity appears, the illusion dissolves. And from that moment on, you move through life with a deeper trust in your ability to recognize truth when it's ready to be seen. Chapter 5 Rising into Consciousness. Rising into consciousness is not a sudden ascent to a permanent state of awareness. It is a gradual awakening to the reality of this moment, again and again. It is the practice of meeting life with presence rather than habit, with intention rather than impulse. As realizations accumulate, consciousness begins to rise naturally, shaping how you experience yourself and the world. To rise into consciousness is to recognize that the present moment is not something to get through, but something to inhabit. Much of human experience is spent elsewhere, in memories of what has passed or projections of what might come. While reflection and planning have their place, living primarily outside the present fragments awareness. Consciousness rises when attention returns to what is happening now. This return to the present does not require withdrawal from life. It occurs in the midst of activity, while speaking, listening, working, or resting. You begin to notice the tone of your thoughts, the sensations in your body, and the emotions beneath your words. This noticing creates a subtle shift. Instead of being carried by experience, you are participating in it. As consciousness rises, you may notice a widening of perspective. Situations that once felt overwhelming begin to feel more spacious. Challenges are still present, but they no longer define you. You see them as experiences moving through awareness, not as reflections of your worth or identity. One sign of rising consciousness is the ability to pause. Between stimulus and response, a moment of choice appears. In that pause, you can observe your inner state before acting. You may choose to speak with clarity instead of defensiveness, to step back instead of pushing forward, or to respond with compassion rather than reaction. These small moments of choice reshape your experience of life. Rising into consciousness also reveals how interconnected your inner and outer worlds truly are. When your mind is cluttered, the world feels chaotic. When your awareness is grounded, even complex situations feel manageable. Consciousness does not eliminate difficulty. It changes your relationship to it. You may also become more aware of energy, how certain environments, conversations, or activities affect you. This awareness allows you to make choices that support clarity rather than drain it. Conscious living is not about control, it is about alignment. There will be moments when old patterns resurface. Rising into consciousness does not mean you never fall back into distraction or reactivity. What changes is how quickly you notice. Awareness shortens the distance between unconsciousness and presence. Each return strengthens your capacity to remain awake. As consciousness deepens, you may feel less driven by external validation and more guided by inner alignment. Decisions begin to come from a place of clarity rather than pressure. You trust your ability to respond wisely because you are listening more closely. This rising is not dramatic or visible to others. It unfolds quietly in how you listen, how you speak, how you treat yourself when no one is watching. It is measured not by perfection, but by presence. Living consciously does not remove uncertainty from life, but it changes how uncertainty is experienced. Instead of fear, curiosity arises. Instead of resistance, openness appears. Consciousness allows you to meet the unknown with steadiness. This chapter invites you to continue rising, not toward an ideal version of yourself, but toward deeper presence with who you are now. Each moment of awareness is a step upward, grounding you more fully in reality. As you rise into consciousness, life becomes less about reacting and more about responding, less about control and more about clarity. In this state, you are not separate from the moment. You are fully alive within it. Chapter 6: Wisdom Beyond Words. As consciousness deepens, a subtle shift occurs in how you seek understanding. Answers that once came from outside, opinions, advice, approval, begin to carry less weight. In their place, a quieter form of knowing emerges. This is wisdom beyond words, insight that does not rely on explanation, yet feels undeniably true. Wisdom beyond words is not impulsive or emotional. It is calm, steady, and grounded. It does not shout for attention or demand immediate action. Instead, it waits patiently, accessible when the mind is quiet enough to listen. This inner knowing arises from lived awareness, not borrowed beliefs. From an early age, many of us are taught to trust external authority over internal experience. We learn to measure ourselves against expectations and to doubt our own perceptions. While guidance can be valuable, over-reliance on outside voices can disconnect us from our own clarity. Reclaiming inner wisdom is an act of remembering rather than learning. You may begin to notice this wisdom in simple moments. A sense of ease when something is aligned. A subtle resistance when something is not. These signals are not logical arguments. They are felt truths. When honored, they often lead to choices that support well-being and integrity. Learning to trust this inner knowing requires patience. The mind is accustomed to analysis and comparison. It seeks certainty through evidence and reassurance. Inner wisdom speaks differently. It offers direction without guarantees, clarity without explanation. Trust grows through experience, by listening, acting, and noticing the outcome. Wisdom beyond words also brings discernment. Not every thought is truth, and not every feeling is guidance. Inner wisdom is steady, not reactive. It does not arise from fear, urgency, or the need to prove something. Instead, it feels spacious and clear, even when it points toward difficult choices. As you begin to rely more on this inner guidance, external opinions may feel less compelling. You may still listen, learn, and consider, but you no longer abandon yourself in the process. Wisdom beyond words allows you to integrate information without losing alignment. This kind of wisdom is deeply personal. It does not follow trends or conform to expectations. It may guide you in directions others do not understand. That does not make it wrong. It means your path is uniquely yours. Silence plays an important role in accessing inner wisdom. In moments of stillness, whether through quiet reflection, mindful movement, or simply pausing before speaking, the noise of the mind settles. In that settling, clarity surfaces naturally. Living from wisdom beyond words does not make life predictable. It makes it authentic. You begin to act from coherence rather than contradiction. Choices feel less forced, even when they are challenging. There is a sense of integrity that comes from honoring what you know to be true for yourself. This wisdom also deepens compassion. When you recognize your own inner guidance, You become less inclined to impose your views on others. You understand that each person must listen for themselves. This respect creates space for connection without control. There will be times when you doubt your inner knowing. This is natural, especially when choices carry uncertainty. Doubt does not mean wisdom is absent. It means trust is still growing. Return to listening. Return to presence. Clarity often reveals itself in time. This chapter invites you to begin trusting what cannot always be explained. Wisdom beyond words is not louder than the world. It is quieter. But when you learn to listen, it becomes one of your most reliable guides. In honoring this inner wisdom, you move through life with greater confidence, not because you know everything, but because you trust yourself to listen deeply and respond honestly. Chapter 7. The Path of Revelation. As inner wisdom strengthens, moments of revelation begin to appear. A revelation is not something you force or chase. It is something you recognize when the conditions are right. It arrives when awareness, presence, and openness align, revealing truth in a way that feels both new and strangely familiar. Revelations often come when you stop trying to figure everything out. When the mind relaxes its grip, understanding can rise naturally. You may experience a sudden clarity about a relationship, a life direction, or an inner pattern you had not fully seen before. These moments do not add something to you. They uncover what was already there. The path of revelation is not linear. It unfolds in layers, each insight building upon the last. One realization opens the door to another, deepening your understanding over time. What once seemed confusing may now appear obvious, not because circumstances changed, but because your perception expanded. Revelations can be gentle or powerful. Some arrive as quiet shifts in perspective, others as profound inner moments that reorient your sense of self. Regardless of intensity, each revelation serves the same purpose: to bring you into greater alignment with truth. An important aspect of this path is surrender. Revelation cannot be controlled by effort alone. It requires willingness, the willingness to be wrong, to let go of familiar narratives, and to see without filters. When you release the need for certainty, insight has room to emerge. You may notice that revelations often follow periods of uncertainty or challenge. This is not coincidence. Discomfort disrupts old patterns, creating openings for new understanding. When you remain present rather than resistant, these moments become gateways rather than obstacles. Revelation also brings responsibility. When truth is revealed, it asks to be lived. You may feel called to make changes, speak honestly, or let go of what no longer aligns. Ignoring revelation does not erase it. It simply delays integration. When honored, revelation becomes a guiding light rather than a passing moment. This path teaches discernment. Not every intense experience is a revelation, and not every revelation feels dramatic. True revelation carries a sense of clarity and grounding, not confusion or urgency. It brings peace, even when it points toward difficult action. As revelations accumulate, your relationship with life changes. You begin to trust the unfolding process rather than trying to control outcomes. You recognize that insight arrives when needed, not always when desired. This trust creates a deeper sense of ease. The path of revelation also deepens humility. Each insight reveals how much there is still to learn. Rather than creating certainty, revelation invites ongoing openness. You become a student of experience, attentive and curious. These moments of truth do not separate you from everyday life. They illuminate it. Ordinary experiences take on new meaning as awareness continues to expand. Conversations, choices, and challenges become opportunities for deeper understanding. This chapter invites you to walk the path of revelation with patience and presence. You do not need to seek extraordinary experiences. Simply remain open, attentive, and honest. Revelation meets you where you are. As you allow truth to reveal itself in its own time, guidance becomes clearer. Each revelation lights the way forward, not with force, but with quiet certainty, reminding you that wisdom unfolds naturally when you are ready to see. Chapter 8. Rebirth of the Self. With each revelation, something old begins to loosen. Beliefs that once defined you soften. Roles you once clung to feel less certain. This is not loss, it is rebirth. The rebirth of the self is not about becoming someone else, but about shedding what no longer reflects who you truly are. For much of life, identity is built from layers of conditioning. Expectations from family, culture, and experience shape how you see yourself and how you move through the world. These layers are not mistakes. They served a purpose. But as awareness deepens, some of them begin to feel restrictive. Rebirth begins when you recognize this misalignment. Letting go can feel unsettling. When familiar identities dissolve, there may be a sense of emptiness or uncertainty. This space is often misunderstood as something being wrong. In truth, it is fertile ground. Just as nature clears old growth to allow new life, inner space allows authenticity to emerge. Rebirth does not happen all at once. It unfolds gradually, through small acts of honesty. You may notice yourself saying no where you once said yes, or speaking your truth where you once stayed silent. These moments are signs that you are aligning with yourself rather than performing a role. Authenticity is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet confidence, the feeling of being at ease in your own presence. When you act from authenticity, there is less effort and less inner conflict. Choices feel cleaner, even when they are difficult. As old beliefs fall away, you may question who you are without them. This questioning is not something to rush through. Identity reshapes itself through experience, not definition. Allow yourself to live the questions rather than demanding immediate answers. Rebirth also involves self-compassion. As you release outdated patterns, you may see how they once limited you. It is easy to judge the past with new awareness. Instead, honor the version of yourself that did the best it could with the understanding it had. Compassion integrates growth rather than fragmenting it. You may notice shifts in your relationships during this process. As you become more authentic, some connections deepen, while others change or fall away. This is not a failure of connection, but an alignment of truth. Relationships that support your growth will adapt. Others may naturally complete. The rebirth of the self brings renewed energy. When you are no longer carrying identities that no longer fit, vitality returns. You feel more present, more engaged, and more alive. Life begins to feel less like something you manage and more like something you inhabit. It is important to remember that rebirth is not a destination. It is an ongoing process. Each layer of awareness invites a deeper level of authenticity. There is no final version of yourself to achieve, only a continual unfolding. This chapter invites you to trust the process of becoming. You do not need to force change or define who you are meant to be. Simply remain honest, present, and open. The self that emerges will be shaped by truth rather than expectation. In releasing what no longer serves you, you make space for who you truly are to step forward. This is the essence of rebirth, not transformation through effort, but renewal through awareness. Chapter 9. Sustaining Awareness. Awakening brings clarity, but sustaining awareness requires commitment. Not forceful discipline or constant effort, but gentle, consistent attention. Awareness is not something you achieve once and keep forever. It is a living process, one that must be nourished through intention and practice. Life will continue to present demands, distractions, and challenges. Without awareness, it is easy to slip back into unconscious patterns. Sustaining awareness means recognizing this tendency without judgment and choosing, again and again, to return to presence. One of the most effective ways to sustain awareness is through simple daily practices. These do not need to be elaborate. Moments of mindful breathing, brief pauses before transitions, or a few minutes of quiet reflection can anchor awareness in the flow of everyday life. Consistency matters more than duration. Awareness also thrives on honesty. When you notice yourself reacting unconsciously, becoming defensive, distracted, or overwhelmed, acknowledge it without self-criticism. Awareness strengthens not by avoiding unconsciousness, but by recognizing it sooner and returning more gently. Another key to sustaining awareness is integration. Insight that remains separate from daily life fades. When awareness informs how you speak, listen, work, and rest, it becomes stable. Notice how presence changes your interactions. Observe how clarity influences your choices. This integration turns awareness into a way of being rather than a temporary state. Environment plays a role as well. Pay attention to what supports your clarity and what drains it. This includes not only physical spaces, but mental and emotional environments, conversations, media, and habits. Sustaining awareness often involves choosing simplicity over excess. Equally important is rest. Awareness is not about constant vigilance. Fatigue clouds perception. When you allow yourself proper rest, stillness, and renewal, awareness naturally returns. Listening to your limits is an act of consciousness, not weakness. Sustaining awareness also means embracing imperfection. There will be days when clarity feels distant. Rather than striving to regain it, meet those moments with acceptance. Awareness often returns when resistance softens. As awareness stabilizes, you may notice a deeper sense of groundedness. You are less easily pulled into emotional extremes and more able to remain centered amid change. This does not mean you feel less. It means you feel more clearly. Community and reflection can also support sustained awareness. Sharing insights with others, learning from different perspectives, or simply spending time with people who value presence can reinforce your own practice. Over time, awareness becomes less about effort and more about remembrance. You remember to pause. You remember to listen. You remember that clarity is always available, even when temporarily obscured. This chapter invites you to approach sustaining awareness with patience and kindness. There is no need to hold on to awakening tightly. Awareness is resilient. Each time you return to presence, you strengthen the foundation. Sustained awareness is not about escaping life's complexity, but meeting it with clarity and steadiness. In doing so, you create a life that is not only awake, but deeply lived. Chapter 10, Living Enlightened. Enlightenment is not a distant goal or a final destination. It is a way of being, a way of engaging with life that blends clarity, presence, and wisdom into everyday experience. Living enlightened does not mean perfection, detachment, or absence of challenge. It means moving through life with conscious awareness, allowing insight and inner guidance to shape your choices, actions, and interactions. At its core, living enlightened is about integration. All the practices, reflections, and realizations you have cultivated now merge into daily life. Awareness is no longer something practiced only in quiet moments. It becomes the lens through which you see the world. Every task, conversation, and decision becomes an opportunity to express presence. Washing dishes, walking to school, or listening to a friend. The ordinary becomes sacred when approached with attention and care. One of the first signs of living enlightened is ease. When your actions are aligned with inner clarity, effort feels lighter. You no longer expend energy resisting life, defending yourself against fear, or striving to meet external expectations. Instead, energy flows naturally into what is meaningful. You notice a deeper sense of peace, even in situations that once triggered stress or frustration. Living enlightened also fosters authenticity. When you are awake and present, your choices are rooted in truth rather than habit, obligation, or fear. You speak honestly, act with integrity, and honor your boundaries without apology. Others may notice the change, not because you try to impress, but because your presence radiates coherence and calm. Compassion becomes an essential aspect of enlightened living. Awareness nurtures empathy, first for yourself, then for others. You see the challenges and limitations of those around you without judgment, understanding that everyone is navigating their own journey. This does not mean accepting harm or compromise, but responding from clarity rather than reaction. Compassion guided by presence allows connection without losing yourself. Living enlightened also involves embracing impermanence. Challenges, successes, joy, and loss all flow through your experience. Enlightened awareness does not cling to what is passing, nor does it resist change. Instead, it perceives life as a constant unfolding, allowing you to move with events rather than against them. A key aspect of daily enlightenment is mindfulness in action. This means observing your inner state while engaging with the external world. Notice your thoughts before speaking, your impulses before reacting, and your intentions before acting. Even small decisions become opportunities to practice conscious living. Over time, mindfulness becomes instinctive, guiding choices effortlessly. Gratitude and appreciation naturally grow from this way of being. Living enlightened allows you to notice beauty and meaning that were previously overlooked. Ordinary moments, a shared laugh, a breath of fresh air, the warmth of sunlight, become reminders of life's depth and richness. This awareness does not require more possessions, achievements, or recognition. It flourishes in presence itself. Living enlightened is also a continual practice. It is not a fixed state, but an ongoing commitment to awareness, reflection, and authenticity. Days will come when distraction or stress returns, and that is normal. Enlightenment is not about never faltering. It is about returning to presence each time you do. Each return strengthens the capacity to live awake. This chapter invites you to see enlightenment not as a prize, but as a way of life. It is the conscious choice to meet each moment fully, to honor your truth, and to act with clarity and compassion. In living enlightened, the world does not change, but your experience of it transforms. Every breath, every step, every interaction becomes a chance to express awareness, to embody wisdom, and to live with purpose. And in this way, enlightenment is not distant or abstract. It is lived, moment by moment, fully and deeply, in the ordinary and extraordinary alike.